We are officially in casserole season, and if you're not new here, you might know casseroles are one of my most favorite things to make. So in today's video, I have 9 amazing and super easy chicken casseroles. You're going to want to add every single one of these to your meal plan, so go ahead and grab your pen and paper, jot these recipes down. By the way, they're all down in the description box. Let's get cooking, y'all. So tonight for dinner, I'm going to make another recipe that's super easy to make. I think there's maybe 6 ingredients in here, but this is another tried and true recipe. Been around for years, so let me show you what we're gonna make. So first of all, we're gonna cook up some angel hair pasta to go in here. This is a 16-ounce box. We're gonna cook about half of this, about 8 ounces. All right, we got our pasta in here starting to cook up. So let me know if you ever tried chicken spaghetti. I know the Pioneer Woman has a recipe that's really popular. All right, right now I'm just gonna go ahead and put our drained angel hair pasta back into our pot, and we're just going to use this pot as our mixing bowl. All right, so we are using a rotisserie chicken for this as well, and we're going to need about 2 cups of the chicken. We already went ahead and pulled it and chopped it up. I have a lot more than 2 cups here, so I'm just going to add about 2 cups in. So we're going to add in 2 cans of cream of chicken soup. Next, we're adding in 1 cup of salsa. We're adding in 1 cup of sour cream. For our seasoning, we just have about 2 tablespoons of taco seasoning. I might add a little bit more. We're following, I think it's the Country Cook's recipe for this. I might add just a little bit more seasoning. And then this is 1 cup of Mexican blend cheese. We have another cup on the side we're gonna top it with. Let's just bring our packet back out. I'm not gonna add quite all of it, but just a little bit more. All right, now we're gonna stir this really, really well. We have our noodles on the bottom, our chicken. Want to get everything nice and incorporated. A little spray, just in case. All right, now let's bring over our chicken spaghetti. Let's get it transferred over. All right, here comes our 2nd cup of our Mexican blend cheese, and we're just gonna sprinkle it evenly all over top. And last but not least, we're gonna sprinkle with just a little bit of this lightly dried parsley, just to give it some color, since we got kind of, what's it called? Monochromatic recipe going on so far. Before we cover this up, I wanted to tell you it's going in the oven at 350, covered for just about 25 minutes till it's nice and warm and our cheese is bubbly. I think I say that about every casserole or anything with cheese on it, till it's warm and bubbly. Alrighty, y'all, our chicken spaghetti is done. All right, it smells delicious. All right, it is time to serve up our chicken spaghetti. This looks so good, even better than I remember. All right, so I already have my chicken in my bowl. Next, we're gonna add the rest of the ingredients. The first one, you're gonna pick up some refrigerated sour cream style French onion dip. You want to get the kind that's refrigerated in the grocery store. So the recipe calls for a cup. This is actually 12 ounces, but I'm just going to go ahead and use it all because there's no sense in keeping a tiny little spoonful in the container. Next in is 1 can of cream of chicken soup. Next, we're going to add about a cup of shredded sharp cheddar cheese. Next to the bowl, the recipe calls for 2 cups of cooked instant white rice. You could totally use a packet of the instant rice. I just cooked up some brown jasmine rice earlier. And last but not least to the bowl, we're gonna add about a half a cup of chicken broth. And y'all, does that get any easier? We're gonna mix this up. We're gonna top it with some French fried onions, and this will be ready for the oven. All right, so I have my 9x13 baking dish here. I know it's kind of hard to see since it's clear. Just gonna give it a quick little spray. Next, we're just gonna top with some French fried onions. The recipe calls for half a cup, but I mean, you know, just go for it. Just do whatever you feel. I think that's a better plan. right, this is gonna go in the oven at 350 degrees for about 20 to 25 minutes until that cheese is nice, hot, and bubbly. So this is chicken and cheddar bay biscuit bake. Let me show you how to make it. All right, first things first, we're gonna preheat our oven all the way to 450. We're getting the oven super hot because with this recipe, everything's pretty much gonna be done in our skillet, but after we put that biscuit topping on top, all we're gonna be doing is cooking those biscuits. By the way, you could make this a one-pan meal if you have a really big or just a large oven-safe skillet. I'm gonna just make our filling in my skillet and then put it in a casserole dish, really because I just need a really pretty picture of the end product. All right, to our pan, we're gonna add 1 medium onion that we diced up earlier. We're also gonna add about half a cup of diced carrot. Stir, and we're just gonna let this saute for about 5 minutes until these onions and carrots start to soften up just slightly. I'm adding in about 2 cloves of minced garlic. We're also gonna sprinkle in 1/4 cup of all-purpose flour. We also have half a tablespoon of poultry seasoning. Lots of good flavors in there. We're just gonna give this a stir and just let this cook for just another minute. We're basically just cooking out this raw flour taste. All right, next we're gonna add in about 2 pounds of cubed chicken. We just cubed this up into bite-sized pieces. I like to keep them up pretty small for this. We're also going in with 3 cups of chicken broth. This is actually just water and the Better Than Bouillon paste. We're also gonna add in 1 cup of milk, and we're just gonna bring this up to a simmer. This is a little bit different than my normal type of filling, especially with chicken. We're just gonna cook the chicken in with all these good seasonings and our broth and our milk. It's just gonna create a really tender chicken inside our biscuit bake filling. One more ingredient I almost forgot to add. This is about half a cup of frozen peas. And of course, these will thaw out and begin to cook. We're gonna get started on our cheddar bay biscuit topping. And like I said, this comes from my grandma. She always made cheddar bay biscuits. I've shared that recipe with y'all before, but it must start with this Southern Biscuit mix. It is the Formula L, and what kind of makes it so special, this is a just add water mix if you're just looking for regular biscuits, but I want to show y'all for the ones who haven't seen, it actually has little, they call them golden flakes, but they're like little flakes of butter in your mix. So I already have about 3 1/4 cup of that biscuit mix in my bowl here, and to that, we're going to sprinkle in, this is about, how much cheese is this?
It's a heart measured half a cup.
A half a cup measured with a heart, so it's probably a little bit more than half a cup of freshly shredded sharp cheddar cheese. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and mix our cheese in with our flour, just until we have everything nice and evenly incorporated in there before we add in our buttermilk. Because I remember, even from when I was little, after you add the buttermilk in and you begin to stir, you only want to stir as few times as possible, so that way your biscuits are not overmixed. That's one thing I remember specifically that my grandbob told me.
That makes it like fluffy still?
Well, you don't want to overmix your biscuits because then they'll just be tough. So literally, y'all can see how many stirs I'm doing. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4. I feel like that owl with the Tootsie Pops. How many stirs does it take to get the perfect biscuit? All right, 1 more and we're gonna be good. All right, now we're carefully gonna bring over our mixture, and I'm just gonna transfer it into my 9x13 here. All right, so I have my biscuit dough over here on the side, and I'm just gonna scoop biscuits. These are drop biscuits. I'm just using my little ice cream scoop, and we're just gonna place a few biscuits right on top. All right, depending on how big you do your biscuits, this recipe does about 12 biscuits. I have just a little bit of that biscuit dough in there, but no worries. All I'll do is just bake these up on a pan, and we'll have some extra Cheddar Bay biscuits to sop up all of that delicious chicken stew in the bottom. All right, so we already preheated the oven to 450. This is going in there for just about 10 to 15 minutes until our biscuits are slightly golden brown. All right, while our chicken bake is finishing baking up, we're gonna make a little garlic butter topping to go on top of those biscuits. It's gonna send this over the top. I just have 1 stick of butter melted here. To that, I'm just adding half a teaspoon of garlic powder, just a small sprinkle of black pepper, half a teaspoon of salt, and I would also add in some chopped chive as well, or you can do some dried parsley. So let's just give this a mix and set this to the side. Look how good this looks. Oh my goodness. And we ain't done yet. Lastly, I just have our garlic butter up here, and we're just gonna brush the biscuits. Oh my goodness. This is so good. This is pure comfort food. Oh my goodness, y'all. These things look delicious. I'm so excited. I say that about every meal because I am so excited about every meal that we cook. Every recipe. Look at that filling in there.
It looks amazing.
Yes, it sure does. Poppy seed chicken casserole. I know I've had this in the past. It may have been my grandmother who made it. I can't remember, but I do remember it was really good, and this is so easy to make. This is actually gonna come out of our church cookbook, and I'm pretty sure this lady in here, yes, she's definitely a grandmother. So sticking with the grandma recipes, let's put this together. This is something that everybody will like, even the pickiest and smallest little eaters. All right, so we are gonna be using a rotisserie chicken for this recipe. This is probably more than we need. We need about 2 or 3 cups. I'm just gonna add it to our bowl here. All right, so to our chicken, we're just gonna add 1 can of cream of chicken soup. All right, next to that, we're gonna add a whole 16-ounce carton of sour cream. Now, this recipe in the cookbook does not call for any seasoning. That's one thing that I have noticed about the church cookbooks and recipes kind of passed down. They don't really add too much seasoning. Let me know if y'all have noticed that. But we are gonna add just a little bit. I'm just gonna add a little bit of this Dano's. It's an all-purpose seasoning. It's great on everything. I don't even know what's in here, but add whatever seasonings you like. At least a little bit of salt and pepper, I would say. Now, I can appreciate recipes for not adding seasoning because some you don't need to cover up the flavors. Like the flavors that you're working with are good enough. So, all right, we're gonna give this a mix. And like I said, this is a very basic recipe. Y'all let me know if your grandma, or if you are a grandma, you ever made this recipe. This reminds me a lot too of Shirley's chicken casserole. It's pretty much the same exact thing, except on top you use stovetop stuffing. It's in my cookbook and I've shared it before. But anyway, I have my poppy seeds over here, but I'm not gonna mix these in the mix. I'll tell you why here in just a second. All right, so we have our baking dish here. Give it a little spray. And I love recipes like this. Y'all know I love a good casserole anyway. But a recipe like this you can mix up ahead of time, maybe before church or just earlier in the day is perfect. That way all you have to do is pull it out of the oven, pull it out of the fridge, maybe let it, come to room temperature just a little bit, pop it in the oven, and you're good to go. The only thing I will say about this recipe in particular is I would not make it ahead of time with the Ritz crackers on top because of course they're gonna get soggy. So I'll just wait. All right, so the poppy seeds, we're gonna add to most of it, but I'm gonna leave a little corner over here in the back. We're gonna be sharing this recipe with my grandmother, and she doesn't particularly like little seeds and stuff like this, so I'm just gonna leave that out. If you don't wanna use the poppy seeds at all, you really don't have to. You can't taste them, I don't think. All right, so I'm just gonna kind of stir these in, just on this side over here. All right, I'm gonna put this to the side just for a second. We're gonna bring over another bowl. Now I have, is this a whole box of Ritz crackers?
Yep.
4 sleeves of Ritz crackers here. I'm at least gonna use 3 of these. This recipe in particular calls for 2, but I like a lot of topping. I feel like I've told y'all that plenty of times. But let's get our Ritz crackers into a bowl. I'm just kind of crunching them up as I go. You don't want them crushed real fine. You do want to leave some bigger pieces in there. All right, so I ended up using just about 3 sleeves of those Ritz crackers. I have about 1/2 cup or 1 stick of butter. I may even use more than that because we want to moisten up all of our Ritz crackers. So let's give this a stir. Let's see if we need more. I can already tell I'm gonna need a little bit more. Yep, see how it's getting there, but I want all of these crumbles to have a little bit of butter on them so that way when it bakes in the oven, it really does become more of like a crust. So I'm gonna start with another 1/2 stick of butter. All right, I don't know if y'all can tell on camera, but that is kind of more how you want it to be. Now all we're gonna do is add our cracker topping to the top. All right, we already have the oven on 350. I'm gonna go ahead and cover this and put it in there for about 15 minutes and then uncover it for the last 15 to kind of let the top brown up a little bit. All right, y'all, here is our poppy seed chicken casserole out of the oven. It looks delicious and it has been sitting just a few minutes actually. So let's go ahead and serve it up. Smells absolutely delicious. This is truly a crowd pleaser. Y'all give this one a try. To start, it says to take 1 stick of butter and melt it in your 9x13 while your oven is preheating. I actually already preheated my oven, and this is not quite a whole stick of butter. So I'm just gonna kind of chop it up a little bit and put it into the oven just for a few minutes. I'll keep an eye on it until it melts. Okay, while my butter is finishing melting, I'm just making up my chicken broth here for the recipe. And I wanted to show y'all this. I'm sure a lot of y'all probably buy it and my label is a little bit torn. It is called Better Than Bouillon. And I've just started keeping this in my fridge instead of buying cartons of chicken broth or even the chicken bouillon. This is less than $5 and it has how many servings? It has 38 servings, which is equal to 38 cups of chicken broth. And to me, the flavor is a little bit deeper, so it just kind of adds a little bit more to any recipe that calls for chicken broth. And like I said, they have it in chicken, they have beef, and a vegetable one, and maybe one more. So I've just started keeping these, and all you do is mix 1 teaspoon of the base with how many ever cups of water. So 2 cups of water, and now I have chicken broth. And it also just takes up a whole lot less room in your fridge. All right, so my butter is melted. Now I just have about 3 cups of pre-cooked chicken. I just boiled mine up earlier and then just shredded it up. And you're just gonna place that right on top of the butter in your dish. And of course, this is a great recipe to use up a rotisserie chicken, leftover chicken. You could even use canned chicken for this. Next, the recipe calls for chopped onion, chopped green pepper, and chopped red pepper. That would be delicious, but I looked at some of the comments and a lot of people on that recipe said they used frozen veggies, think like chicken pot pie. So I thought I would try that as well. We really like chicken pot pie, and this is easier. You don't have to chop anything. So I just have about 1 cup of frozen peas and carrots. I'm just gonna dump those right on top of my chicken. Then next, we're gonna add 1 teaspoon of poultry seasoning. And I only probably have not quite a teaspoon left, so I'm just gonna sprinkle on what I do have left. And I use poultry seasoning in my chicken pot pie anyway, so when I saw this recipe, I just thought it would be really good with the peas and carrots. And like I said, it makes it a little easier. We're also gonna add just a sprinkle of black pepper. Next, to a medium-sized bowl, we're gonna add 2 cups of Bisquick. And next to our Bisquick, we're gonna add 2 cups of milk. Gonna add a pinch of salt. And then we're just gonna whisk this together. And this is gonna make part of our topping, which is gonna actually be like a dumpling topping. Now we're just gonna pour that Bisquick mixture right over top of our veggies and chicken. And then lastly, we're gonna take that chicken stock, that chicken broth that we made, and we're just gonna mix that together with 1 can of cream of chicken soup. Now we're just gonna bring that over and we're gonna dump that right on top as well. And this is gonna bake at 350 for 1 hour. It will look pretty liquidy at this point, but don't worry because it's all gonna come together and it's gonna make the most perfect little dumpling topping. Think chicken and dumpling meets chicken pot pie. All right, so let's get this into the oven and I'll show you what it looks like when it comes out. I have to tell you, this was delicious. That buttery crust on top, it kind of got a little bit crispy and fluffy at the same time, if that makes sense. It was so good, the most perfect flavors. This would be good served with rice or mashed potatoes, or like the recipe recommends, just a big salad on the side. You really can't go wrong with this one. Does that not look delicious or what? Perfect for a weeknight. This is one of our family's favorite meals. Anybody truly can make this, and mostly everybody will enjoy it as well. Alrighty, y'all, so we are cooking puff pastry chicken pie tonight. This recipe is actually in my cookbook. So right now I just have a little bit of olive oil in my pan. This is about 1 cup of diced onion. And we are just going to saute that up until it's soft. Also, by the way, in my cookbook, in the recipe, this part actually calls to add celery and chopped carrot as well. I don't have either one of those tonight, so I'm just gonna leave them out. But obviously they're delicious in there if you have them, or if you're somebody who doesn't like any of these things, the onion, celery, or carrot, just leave it out and it'll be perfectly fine. We're gonna add in a couple more veggies here in a little bit. Yes, Mr. Rippy is back here. He said if you had some frozen onions in the freezer, frozen celery, frozen carrots, any of that would work as well, or frozen veggies that we're gonna see here in just a little bit too. All right, our onions are pretty soft, so I'm actually just gonna go ahead and remove these. All right, next to that same pan, we're gonna add in 3 tablespoons of butter. Just let that melt down. All right, next I'm just gonna sprinkle in about 4 tablespoons of all-purpose flour. And grab my whisk. Just whisk everything in. All right, next I'm gonna whisk in about 2 cups of chicken broth. I'm gonna kind of add it slowly and keep whisking. You can see we're starting to thicken up a little bit. I did turn my stove up just a little bit and I'm gonna continue to whisk. I'm gonna let it thicken up just a little bit more because we're also gonna add some heavy cream here in a second as well. Alrighty, now we're gonna add in 1 cup of heavy cream. And again, we're just gonna whisk that in. All right, we were not recording, but I just added 1 teaspoon of poultry seasoning. We're gonna add some black pepper. I'm gonna add just a little bit of salt since we do have a good bit of chicken broth in there. Not much. We're gonna whisk all of our seasonings in. And of course you can add whatever other seasonings you would like. I'm gonna add in just a little bit of onion powder. We're gonna add those onions back in here in just a second. And just a little sprinkle of garlic powder. I'm gonna bring back over those sauteed onions. And this is where those other veggies come in. Honestly, if you have a bag of frozen peas and carrots, that would be perfect in here. I don't like peas that much, so we're gonna add a little bit of corn and green beans. I know that might seem weird, but it's actually really good in here. Just whatever veggies that you like. We're gonna stir those in. And then lastly to the mixture, I have about 2 cups, maybe a little bit more of rotisserie chicken. Y'all know I love a rotisserie chicken. All right, and now we're just gonna stir everything to combine. At this point, it would be really good to go ahead and taste it, see if you need to adjust your seasonings at all, if there's anything else you wanna add in. Now we're just gonna bring our mixture over into our baking dish. And now we're gonna need 2 sheets of puff pastry. So we're just gonna start by using a pizza cutter. And we're gonna cut our puff pastry into about 1-inch thick strips. I'm gonna try to explain this the best that I can, but if you don't know what I'm talking about, then just, you can look it up on YouTube. If I'm not the best at explaining it, somebody out there is. But we're just gonna lay our strips in here. You can leave the sides. Some people will do that. I'm just gonna tear them off to make sure they don't burn. So we're just gonna lay our strips all down, leaving a little gap. Let's see, I hope y'all can see that. Leaving a gap just like that in between each one. I know some of y'all out there probably already know how to do this. You're like, Jen, we know. But some may not, so. And I love this dish because it's delicious, of course, but it looks so pretty. I mean, it looks like you did a lot more, you know, hard labor than what you're actually doing. This is actually super easy to make. All right. There we go. I'm gonna scoot those down a little bit. Okay. Now we're gonna take that second sheet of puff pastry. We're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna unroll it over here. So now here is the fun part. What we're gonna do is go in every other strip and pull it back. So every other strip that we just laid down, we're gonna pull it back. Just let it fall over your pan. Okay, now we're gonna take our horizontal strips and lay it up against where we just laid it back, just like that. And of course, it doesn't have to go all the way across. You can add, you know, multiple little pieces like that. Once you have one row, lay it back down. Okay. And then basically we're gonna go back and do the exact same thing with the opposite strips. So now I'm gonna pick up that first one, pull it back as far as it'll go, and do the same thing until our whole pie is latticed. It's so pretty how it comes out. Okay. Fold them back over. Now we're on our last one, so we're just gonna get it laid in there as well. All right, and the last thing we're gonna do before it goes in the oven, I just have a little egg wash, just 1 egg and some water. We're just gonna brush it all over the tops of our puff pastry. It's gonna make it look golden brown and beautiful. Brush it all on there really good. All right, we already have our oven at 375 this time. It's going in there uncovered for about 45 minutes. If you do notice the tops of our puff pastry kind of browning up too much, all you have to do is lay a piece of foil over your pan. You don't have to put it on there tightly, just lay it right over it and it'll be good. My favorite thing about this recipe, or any recipe using puff pastry, is just how golden brown it bakes up. It just looks so good, and it also tastes really good. This recipe could be changed up depending on your family's preferences on veggies and things like that. Super versatile and just super good. So if you've been here a while, you will know I love a good chicken casserole. We've probably tried every chicken casserole recipe under the sun, but nevertheless, this one is a brand new one to me, and it is cracked chicken casserole. Spoiler alert, this one was super delicious, and I actually took several different kind of little shortcuts in this recipe, so it was very easy to make, but it turned out really good. This bacon I'm using is just the microwave bacon. If you've never seen it before or you're not familiar, it comes kind of already like pre-cooked a little bit, and then you just pop it in the microwave for a few seconds, and it does get pretty crispy, and it's perfect to use in recipes like this. We also just went out of town recently, stayed in a hotel that just had, you know, the microwave and coffee maker, and that bacon was perfect to have for breakfasts for the kids and stuff. Anyway, so we're going to need a large bowl, and to that we're going to create kind of our filling for this casserole. We're going to need some sour cream, 1 can of cream of chicken soup, and then we're going to need 1 packet of the ranch dressing mix. Next to the mix, we're going to add some butter. I'm just going to pop mine in the microwave to kind of melt it a little bit first, and then we're going to pour that in, and then again we're just going to mix everything together. So the next thing we're going to add are some shredded hash browns, and I really love using these Simply Potatoes ones. They're the ones that are not frozen. I just feel like they cook better in casseroles like this, especially casseroles that you're not necessarily baking for a long time. So we're going to add 1 bag of the shredded hash browns, and then you saw me adding in some of our rotisserie chicken. It's about 2 cups. I use about half of a rotisserie chicken that I just pulled earlier in the week. Y'all saw me do that. Then we're going to add some cheese. I like that triple cheddar, and of course our bacon that we chopped. Y'all, I should have used a bigger bowl probably, but we're going to give this a mix the best that we can before we get it into our baking dish. So next, of course, I just have my 9x13 here. I did give it a little light spray with some cooking spray, and we're just gonna get all of our chicken filling into the dish. Now, I'll go ahead and tell y'all, you're probably watching this thing, and this looks just like a hash brown casserole, and that's exactly the vibes that it gives. But every time I've always made the hash brown casserole, or even the funeral potatoes, anything like that, I've always thought you could definitely add some chicken to this and call it a meal. So I guess that's exactly what we're doing today. I did save a little bit of that shredded cheese to add on top, as well as some of that crumbled bacon. And this is just going to go into the oven at 350 for only about 30 minutes until everything is nice and bubbly and heated through. All right, y'all, and just like that, we have a super easy dinner come together. I just served ours with some green beans. Again, y'all know my love for canned green beans, but this was perfect, and we had tons of leftovers that heat up just perfectly. And it is called No Peak Chicken. All the ingredients are things that I know my family likes, so I really wanted to give this one a try. All right, I have my 9x13. The first thing going in is 2 cups of minute rice. This is just the minute rice or instant rice. Next, we're gonna add 1 can of cream of mushroom soup, and also 1 can of cream of chicken soup. Next, I'm gonna pour in about half a cup or half a can of chicken broth, and then I'm gonna do the other half water, because I really don't want this to be too salty. Because as you're gonna see, we do have quite a few salty elements. So let's get that half cup of water. Let me grab my whisk, We're just gonna whisk our rice around with our chicken broth and our cream of mushroom and our cream of chicken. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and move that to the side. All right, we have our chicken tenderloins over here in a bowl, and we are gonna season it. I'm gonna go in with the Kinder's wood-fired garlic. But like I said, I'm really not gonna do much because this seasoning, and most seasonings, if you look at their ingredients, salt is the first one. And that Lipton onion soup plus these cream of soups, they're really salty in that chicken broth. All right, just add a little bit more so our chicken is seasoned. All right, now we're just gonna nestle these little chicken tenderloins right in our rice mixture. All right, the last thing we're gonna do is sprinkle on 1 packet of our onion soup mix. Just right over top of everything. Make sure it gets on that chicken really good. Lord, it's the packet that never ends. I keep thinking it was the end of it and more would keep coming out. All right, I'm gonna grab my tin foil. All right, we already have the oven preheated to 350. And I'm gonna go with 45 minutes. All right, it's been in there 45 minutes. We're gonna do what the opposite of what the recipe is called. And I'm gonna peek at it. I'll let y'all peek at it too. Okay, it looks delicious already. I don't know, should we let it keep going? I'm gonna let it go another 15 more minutes. Smells delicious, y'all. And here is the no-peek chicken after the 15 additional minutes. I have to say, this was really good. It was a very easy meal to make. I'll definitely make it again, but I think I might use the Lipton onion soup mix. I know I said it was the same at the beginning, but I think I do prefer the Lipton. So if you have that choice, maybe go for the Lipton, but for an easy weeknight dump and go meal, you really can't beat this. This is chicken and stuffing stuffed shells. All right, so we already boiled up some jumbo pasta shells earlier. You just boil those up according to your package directions, just maybe a minute less than al dente, because they are going to continue to cook in the oven. And then also you want to prepare a box of chicken stovetop stuffing mix, but just prepare it again according to package directions. And now we're gonna prepare our filling for our shells. All right, so in our bowl here, we have about 2 cups of cooked chicken, rotisserie chicken. I'm using canned chicken, y'all, because it's easy and I like it. And to that, we're gonna add 1 cup of sour cream. Now, the lady who I saw the recipe, she used Greek yogurt. I'm not a huge Greek yogurt fan, so sour cream is a perfect substitute. But of course, I'll have my recipe or my version, and I'll have her recipe down below as well. Next, we have our prepared stuffing mix, and we are just gonna get it in here with our chicken and sour cream. All right, now we're just gonna give everything a stir. All right, we are about all mixed together. All we're gonna do is take each little pasta shell, put some of our chicken and stuffing mixture in here, a couple tablespoons, and we're gonna place it in the baking dish. I'm gonna do this until I've used up most of my stuffing. We'll see how many, or we'll see how much I can fit in here. And I have just been craving this, I guess, because we're coming into the holidays. I love stuffing, even the stovetop kind. All right, all of our shells are stuffed and in our dish, and now we're gonna make a little sauce to pour over top. The sauce for our shells is super simple. All we're gonna need is 2 cans of cream of chicken soup. And to that, we're just gonna add 1 can or about 1 cup of milk. I'm just gonna use 2% milk because that's what we always buy. And I just had mine on the stove top. We're just gonna heat this up until everything's warm. But honestly, you could whisk these together and pop it in the microwave for a minute or 2. And it will be just as good. All right, while this is warming up, I did want to tell y'all also, you can probably do this ahead of time like we're doing. We actually had to go pick up a kid right in the middle, so we just made our shells, went ahead and stuffed them all, popped it in the fridge, and you could do that if you just want to have dinner prepped. That way all you have to do is make your sauce, throw some cheese on there, and pop it in the oven later. All right, our sauce is heated through, and Darren just kind of made a good point. He's like, you probably don't even have to heat the sauce up, but I don't know. The only reason I could think of is maybe so the shells don't quite have to cook as long in the oven so they don't get overcooked. So your sauce is already warmed through, your chicken, everything's pretty much cooked, so they're only going in the oven for about 30 minutes. Anyway, let's pour our sauce right over top. All those shells nice and covered. And Darren actually tasted the filling already. He said it's so good. All right, lastly, last but not least, we're gonna just sprinkle on some sharp cheddar cheese.
How much cheese?
I have about 2 cups here, but y'all know, honey. Measure with your heart, okay? However much cheese you want. All right, this is just going into an oven at 350 for just about 30 minutes till everything is nice and warm through and that cheese is melted. This is gonna be so good. It's gonna taste like a miniature Thanksgiving. I already know it. All right, y'all, we just pulled this out of the oven. Look how delicious it looks. I mean, seriously, this looks amazing. All right, let's plate a couple of these up, y'all. The lady who I got this idea from said, I'll take you back to grandma's house. Ooh, so I'm very excited. Alrighty, y'all, let's cut into one of these and let's give it a try. Nice and tender in there. See all that chicken and stuffing. That is so good. That is so good. Takes you back to grandma's house. That girl was right. Don't forget to check down there in the description box, y'all. I have all the recipes either linked or typed out for you so you can give each one of these chicken casseroles a try. I have way more videos and easy recipes to check out on my channel, so go ahead and do that. I'll meet you guys over in the next video. I hope you're all doing amazing, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Bye, y'all.